Fearing an influx of Polish Jews from Germany, the Polish Parliament passed legislation on March 31, 1938, requiring the recertification of Polish citizens living abroad. The intention of the law was to deny Polish Jews living in Germany passports that would allow them to return to Poland. Jews would lose their Polish citizenship effective November 1, 1938, if the Polish government failed to recertify their passports, which it had no intention of authorizing. German authorities tried to raise the stakes by deporting 17,000 Polish Jews to the border in October, but Poland refused to accept them. Already, 20,000 Polish Jews left Germany from 1933 to 1938 and returned to Poland. However, those deported on October 31, 1938, remained stuck in the no-man's land along the Polish-German border. The family of Herschel Grinspan ended up in a Polish internment camp along the border. Not knowing what had happened to his family, Herschel, who was living in Paris, went to the German embassy in Paris on November 7, 1938, and shot a minor German diplomat, Ernst von Rath, who suddenly became a German hero upon his death. Hitler authorized a collective punishment of German Jews for the killing of von Rath by the Polish Herschel Grinspan. He decided to give the brown shirts free rein to attack Jews as long as no Aryan-controlled property was damaged. Upon the signal of the German propaganda minister, Joseph Goebbels, the attack began on the evening of November 9, 1938. A nationwide pogrom against German Jews during the night of November 9th and 10th was organized by Nazi officials to avenge the death of von Rath. Because of the destruction of so many Jewish-owned shop windows in Berlin, the event became known as Kristallnacht, the Night of the Broken Glass, or Crystal Night. Gestapo chief Heinrich Müller sent orders to the police not to intervene in the spontaneous actions of the German people against their Jewish neighbors. At least 100 Jews died that night, or from injuries suffered in attacks, the first victims of the final solution. Lists of Jews to be arrested had already been drawn up by German authorities, and even before the death of von Rath, the German government in the summer of 1938 expanded the concentration camps of Buchenwald, Dachau, and Sachsenhausen to handle more inmates. By the morning of the 10th, 191 synagogues were ablaze, and an additional 76 were totally destroyed according to the official reports of the 11th. But the actual number of synagogues made unusable was double the official number. According to German authorities, 7,500 Jewish businesses were destroyed. The broken shop windows gave the event its name. Jewish institutions were destroyed, archives burned, and Jewish-owned apartments and houses looted. Jewish males were rounded up, with 11,000 sent to Dachau, 10,000 to Buchenwald, and 9,000 to Sachsenhausen. Inmates who promised to leave Germany were eventually released by the spring of 1939, but only after hundreds of Jews died of beatings or executions in the concentration camps. All remaining Jewish-owned businesses were Aryanized. The German government forced the German Jewish community to pay a collective fine of $400 million, and all insurance claims for destroyed property went to the government or Nazi-favored Aryan corporations. The destructiveness of the Kristallnacht was extended to Austria on the morning of the 10th. 42 synagogues were demolished in Vienna, and over 4,000 Jewish-owned shops looted and destroyed. 27 Jews were murdered, 88 were seriously injured, and almost 700 committed suicide, at least officially, but some of the suicides were additional murders. About 7,800 Jewish males in Vienna and another 4,600 Jews from other parts of Austria were sent to Dachau. The Nazi Party rejoiced in its ability to take actions against the Jews and prepared the German people for further action in the future. German authorities decided a more orderly program of punishing the Jews would be needed in the future. Orders were given to commanders of special duty troops, Einsatzgruppen, in late September 1939, that in occupied Poland, Jews living in communities that were annexed to Germany were immediately murdered. Thousands of Jews were killed in the fall of 1939. Jews living in the so-called general government were expelled from the smaller Jewish communities and concentrated in a series of ghettos in larger cities, near railroad facilities in preparation for further actions. Jews who tried to escape or fell behind during the deportations to ghettos were immediately killed in 1939 and 1940. Many of the Jews living in the annexed districts of Silesia, Danzig, West Prussia, and Poznan were killed, and the rest deported to the ghettos of the general government. 400,000 Jews were concentrated in the largest Jewish ghetto created by the Germans in Warsaw. Synagogues were burned all over Poland, and Jews were murdered or sent to forced labor, or robbed and then sent to the ghettos of the larger Polish cities. In one example, in November 1939, Germans marched 1,800 Jews from Chelm to the Bug River on a death march that few escaped. As the Germans instituted their concentration policy, Jews who could escape headed for Russian-occupied parts of Poland, where they found temporary refuge until the German invasion of June 1941. Initially, Germans used natural death to reduce the Jewish population under their control. Hundreds of work camps were established in Poland to work Jews to death from 1939 to 1941. Initially, tens of thousands of Jews in occupied Poland ended up in forced labor camps. Poles helped in the elimination of their Jewish neighbors by organizing their own pogroms in 1939 and 1940. The worst took place in February 1940, as young Poles attacked Jews before German authorities decided to stop the pogroms because they were too disorganized for a final solution to the Jewish problem. In ghettos like Warsaw and Lodz, Jews had their property confiscated and food rations limited, leading to increasing deaths from starvation and disease. Smuggling food into the ghettos became a capital punishment. The goal was the maximum loss of population during the ghetto phase and use of terror by the German authorities to make the Jewish population accept this demoralizing slow form of murder and weaken the population in case more direct action was needed to eliminate the Jewish population.